The day I turned 4 was the day I became invisible. Not in a cool, superhero kind of way, but in a my parents literally forget I exist kind of way. That's because my brother, Michael, came into the world, and suddenly, I might as well have been a piece of furniture for all the attention I got. My dad, Joe, was the kind of guy who had his heart set on passing his car repair shops down to a son. So, when Michael was born, it was like he won the lottery. Mom, Sarah, just went along with whatever made Dad happy. It was always about the heir and the legacy with him. Me? I was just Anna, the first attempt that didn't quite hit the mark. Joe, can you believe it? We have a son now. Mom's voice would echo through the house like she was announcing the arrival of royalty. Yeah, Sarah, the heir. Finally, Dad would respond, his voice booming with a mix of pride and relief, as if he'd been holding his breath waiting for a son and could finally breathe easy. I remember standing there, clutching my doll, feeling my heart sink. Didn't I count for something too? Thankfully, my grandparents, Frank and Mary, lived just down the street. They were my safe haven. Grandma Mary would always greet me with warm hugs and freshly baked cookies, making me feel like the most special girl in the world. Anna, come here, love. Tell me about your day, she'd say, her eyes twinkling with genuine interest. Grandpa Frank, with his endless stories and hearty laughs, made me feel like adventure was just around the corner. And then there was Aunt Lily, Dad's sister, who never had kids of her own but treated me like I was hers. Who needs em anyway? Aunt Lily would say about my parents, her voice rough from years of smoking. You got us, kid. We're your real family. Aunt Lily was the cool aunt. She'd take me on walks, tell me stories about the good old days, and teach me how to stand up for myself. If anyone gives you trouble, you come to me, she'd say, her tone serious, but her eyes soft. We don't take crap from anyone, got it? Got it, I'd reply, feeling a mix of comfort and confidence wash over me. Life went on like this for a while. At home, I was the ghost girl, tiptoeing around a brother who was showered with all the love and attention a kid could want. At my grandparents' house, I was Anna, the cherished granddaughter, the beloved niece. One evening, after another day of being overlooked, I went to my grandparents' house, seeking the warmth and affection I craved. The contrast between their home and mine was like night and day. Your dad's too caught up in his dreams of legacy, Grandpa Frank said, shaking his head. Doesn't realize the treasure he's got in you. He's a fool, Anna, Aunt Lily chimed in, her voice hard. But we've got your back, always. It was in these moments, surrounded by my grandparents and aunt, that I felt whole. They saw me for who I was, not as a disappointment or a shadow, but as Anna, a girl with her own dreams and worth. But no matter how much love they gave me, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being the forgotten daughter at home. It was a title I didn't want but seemed stuck with, a reminder that in my parents' eyes, I was just the prologue to my brother's story. My 10th birthday was a big deal, at least to me. In our little world, hitting double digits meant you were no longer a little kid. Grandma and Grandpa knew this and decided to surprise me with something I'd been dreaming of, my very own phone. Not just any phone, but a shiny, new one that I could use to call them or Aunt Lily anytime I felt invisible at home. Happy birthday, Anna. Look what we got for you. Grandma beamed, her eyes shining with excitement as she handed me the small, wrapped box. I tore off the wrapping paper, my heart racing. The moment I saw the phone, my world lit up. Oh my gosh, thank you. This is the best gift ever. I couldn't contain my excitement, hugging them both tightly. Aunt Lily winked at me. Now you can call me whenever you want, kiddo. No more feeling left out, yeah? Yeah. I grinned, feeling a sense of independence bubble up inside me. But my joy was short-lived. The very next day, Dad saw the phone in my hand. His face turned into a scowl, the kind that made my stomach twist into knots. What's that? He barked, nodding toward the phone. It's my birthday gift from Grandma and Grandpa, I said, my voice small, already sensing trouble. Dad snatched the phone from my hands. You don't need this. Michael will get more use out of it. But Dad, I protested, my heart sinking. It was my gift. Enough, he snapped, turning away. Michael, come here. Look what you've got now. I watched, devastated, as my little brother took the phone with a confused yet excited look. He didn't understand the gravity of the situation, but I did. It was another loud, clear message. Michael mattered more. Later, I cried to Aunt Lily over what happened. She was furious, her usual cool demeanor replaced with fiery anger. That's bullshit. Aunt Lily rarely cursed, but when she did, it was serious. They had no right to do that to you. It's your gift, your phone. Grandma and Grandpa were more diplomatic, but equally upset. We'll talk to Joe, Grandpa said, his jaw set in a way that told me he meant business. The confrontation that ensued was something out of a primetime drama. Grandma and Grandpa, with Aunt Lily in tow, stormed over to our house. I tagged along, a mix of nervous and eager to see justice done. Joe, you will give Anna her phone back this instant. It was a gift from us to her, not to Michael, Grandma stated, her voice steady but filled with a rare edge of authority. Dad looked taken aback, not used to being challenged, especially in his own home. It's just a phone. Michael can. It's not about the damn phone, Joe. Aunt Lily cut in, her voice rising. It's about respecting your daughter's feelings. About showing her she matters too. There was a tense silence. Mom stood by, wringing her hands, a silent spectator, as always. Finally, Dad relented, muttering under his breath as he fetched the phone and handed it back to me. Fine. But don't expect any more gifts like this, he grumbled. Thank you, I whispered, clutching the phone like a lifeline. As we walked back to Grandma and Grandpa's house, Aunt Lily put an arm around my shoulders. Remember, Anna, you're worth more than how they treat you. Don't you forget that. Grandma squeezed my hand. We'll always be here for you, my dear. Always. The year I turned 11, my world came crashing down. It wasn't just a bad day or a temporary setback, it was the kind of loss that changes everything. My grandparents, the two people who had been my rock, my sanctuary, were gone. Killed in a train accident, just like that. No goodbyes, no last hugs, nothing. Just a gaping hole where their love and warmth used to be. I remember coming home from school that day. The house was unusually quiet, but there was this tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Mom and Dad were in the living room, and Aunt Lily was there too, tears streaming down her face. I'd never seen her cry before. She was always the strong one, the unbreakable one. Seeing her like that scared me more than anything. What's going on? My voice sounded small, even to my own ears. Dad looked up, his face hard, no trace of the usual indifference. Your grandparents were in a train accident. They didn't make it. The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My legs gave way, and I sank to the floor, the world spinning around me. Aunt Lily rushed over, pulling me into her arms. It's going to be okay, Anna. We'll get through this together, she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying her own despair. But things went from bad to worse. The funeral was a blur, a procession of faces, some familiar, most not, all offering the same empty condolences. I'm sorry for your loss. They were wonderful people. Words meant to comfort, but they felt like ash in my mouth. After the funeral, the Real bomb dropped. Dad announced that he was selling Grandma and Grandpa's house. The house where I'd spent the best parts of my childhood, where I felt loved and wanted. Aunt Lily was livid. You can't do that, Joe. That house is supposed to be for Anna. Dad snorted, a sound full of contempt. The will's a mess, Lily. And I'm next of kin. The house is mine to sell. And sell it I will. But where will I go? You're kicking me out on the street? Aunt Lily's voice was high, panicked. She'd lived with my grandparents since forever. That house was her home too. You should have thought about that before. Not my problem. Dad shot back, his tone cold and final. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he be so cruel? Didn't he care at all? Aunt Lily gathered her dignity around her like a cloak, wiping away her tears. Fine. I'll leave. But know this, Joe, you're losing the only family you've got left. Hope it's worth it. Dad nodded, and that was that. Aunt Lily had to pack up her life and leave the only home she'd known. I remember hugging her tight, not wanting to let go. She hugged me back, whispering, "It'll be okay, kiddo. We'll figure something out." Aunt Lily moved into this tiny apartment not too far from our place. It wasn't much, but it was hers. So, I started sneaking out to see Aunt Lily. It felt like a mini rebellion, but I needed to be with someone who understood, someone who felt the loss as much as I did. "Hey, Aunt Lily," I'd say, stepping into her cramped living room that somehow felt more like home than my actual house. "Anna, what are you doing here? Your dad will have my head if he finds out you're visiting." She'd half scold, half laugh, pulling me into a hug. "I don't care. I needed to see you," I'd reply, feeling the tension drain out of me. We'd sit and talk for hours. She'd tell me stories about Grandma and Grandpa, keeping their memory alive. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence, each lost in our thoughts, but it was a comfortable silence, filled with love and shared grief. After Grandma and Grandpa passed away, my life took a nosedive into something I barely recognized. Home wasn't home anymore, it felt more like I was some kind of servant. I did everything, scrubbed floors, cooked meals that no one thanked me for, and tried to keep the house in order. It was exhausting, and all the while, I felt this heavy ache for the family I lost, the warmth that used to greet me every day after school. Then came that Friday that felt like the final straw. School had been rough, and all I wanted was to dump my backpack and collapse onto my bed. But nope, the universe had other plans. The house was locked, and not a soul was in sight. I sat on the steps, confusion slowly turning to worry, then to a kind of desperate loneliness as the hours ticked by. Mrs. Henderson from next door came over, her brows furrowed in concern. "Dear, why are you sitting out here? Didn't your folks tell you they were heading out for the weekend?" That's when it hit me. They left. Without a word, without a thought. Tears sprang to my eyes, and Mrs. Henderson tooted, shaking her head. "Oh, honey, come here," she said, but I shook my head, wiping at my eyes. "I'll figure something out," I mumbled, my voice all choked up. It was getting late, the kind of late that makes everything seem worse, so I made my way to Aunt Lily's. My heart felt like it was sitting heavy in my chest, each step heavier than the last. Knocking on Aunt Lily's door felt like admitting defeat, but the moment she opened it and saw my face, her expression shifted from surprise to something fierce. "Anna? What happened?" she asked, pulling me inside. I spilled everything, the words tumbling out in a rush, and by the end, Aunt Lily's face was set in a hard line. She dialed my dad, her tone sharp as broken glass. "Joe, your daughter was locked out, left on the doorstep like a forgotten package. What's going on?" Dad's voice came through the phone, all casual like we were discussing the weather. "Oh, that. We thought she was with you. Don't make a drama out of it, Lily. If you're so concerned, she can stay with you." Aunt Lily's eyes flashed, and I knew that was it. "Fine, Joe. She'll stay with me. Someone's got to look after her," she snapped, hanging up before he could reply. That night, Aunt Lily made space for me, a little nook in her apartment that felt more welcoming and warm than my entire house had felt in months. "You're with me now, kiddo. We'll make it work, you and me," she said, her voice soft but determined. And I stayed with her. Later, as I could understand with my childish mind, she got the status of guardian over me. Life with Aunt Lily was different. We didn't have much, stretching every dollar till it screamed, but there was laughter in that small apartment, and a kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. We were a team, tackling everything from bills to grocery shopping with a can-do spirit that made even the hard days seem okay. Living with Aunt Lily, things started to look up in ways I hadn't dared to hope. She pushed me, always in that tough love way of hers, to not let the past define my future. "You're smarter than you give yourself credit for, kiddo. Use that brain for something big," she'd say, nudging me towards the stack of college brochures piled on our tiny kitchen table. I hit the books hard. School became my escape, a place where I could prove to myself, and maybe a bit to my parents, wherever they were, that I was more than just a forgotten daughter. Nights were long, filled with study sessions that stretched until the streetlights outside flickered off. One evening, Aunt Lily caught me dozing off into my textbook. "You're burning the candle at both ends, Anna. Don't run yourself ragged." I rubbed my eyes, yawning. "I've gotta. Scholarships, Aunt Lily. It's the only way I'm getting into college." She sat down next to me, her voice serious. "I know, honey. Just, don't forget to breathe. You've got this, but don't forget to live a little too." Her words stuck with me, a gentle reminder that while the future was important, so was the present. When acceptance letters started rolling in, Aunt Lily and I jumped around our living room like a couple of loons. I had done it, full ride to study political science. The joy in Aunt Lily's eyes was something I'd carry with me forever. "You did it, Anna. I'm so damn proud of you." College was a whirlwind. Between classes, I snagged a part-time job and applied for every scholarship under the sun. Money was tight, and every little bit helped. Aunt Lily did her part too, working extra shifts, always with that uncomplaining resilience that defined her. "Every penny towards your future," she'd say, slipping me a few extra dollars she'd saved up from tips. I graduated top of my class, fueled by a blend of Aunt Lily's unwavering support and my own stubborn determination. The day I walked across that stage, diploma in hand, I saw Aunt Lily in the crowd, cheering louder than anyone. I couldn't help but think, this is for us. Landing a job after college felt like the next big leap. It wasn't just any job either. A renowned think tank had seen potential in me, a kid from nowhere with nothing but grit and a degree. "You're going to do great things, Anna. I just know it," Aunt Lily said, her voice thick with emotion, the night before my first day. "Yeah, but only because you believed in me first," I replied, knowing full well that none of this would have been possible without her. As my career took off, so did the rest of my life. Landing a job at a prestigious think tank was just the start. My days were filled with research, policy analysis, and even the occasional TV appearance to discuss the latest political developments. It was exhilarating, the kind of life I'd dreamed of, but never really believed I'd achieve. One evening, after a particularly successful panel discussion on television, Aunt Lily and I sat in our living room, a modest but cozy space we'd made our own over the years. She was flipping through the channels, trying to find a rerun of the discussion. "Look at you, all smart and important on the TV. Makes an aunt proud," she said, not looking away from the screen. I laughed, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Come on, Aunt Lily. It's just a panel. Besides, I wouldn't be here without you." "That's right, you wouldn't," she teased, finally settling on the channel just as my segment replayed. "But don't sell yourself short. You're doing the work, Anna. You're making a difference." It was moments like these that I cherished the most. Despite the success and the busy schedule, Aunt Lily kept me grounded. She reminded me of where I came from and what really mattered. Then came Mark, a fellow political scientist I met at a conference. He was passionate, smart, and, unlike me, incredibly outgoing. We hit it off immediately, finding common ground in our work and our shared vision for the future. Introducing him to Aunt Lily was a nerve-wracking experience. They were the two most important people in my life, and I desperately wanted them to get along. "So, you're the young man who's stolen Anna's heart," Aunt Lily said, eyeing Mark with a mix of skepticism and curiosity as we sat down for dinner one night. Mark chuckled, not missing a beat. Stolen is such a strong word. I'd like to think she gave it willingly. Aunt Lily snorted, but I could tell she was impressed. Well, as long as you keep her happy and support her dreams, we won't have a problem. Mark reached for my hand across the table. Nothing is more important to me, he said, and I believed him. Our life together blossomed from there. We got married in a small, intimate ceremony with Aunt Lily officiating. It was perfect, a celebration of love, family, and new beginnings. When we moved to a new state for Mark's business ventures, it was a big change, but it felt right. We built a large, warm house that soon echoed with the laughter of our two daughters, Emily and Sophie. Aunt Lily moved in with us, taking on the role of doting grandmother with gusto. My career continued to thrive. I participated in debates, led election campaigns, and even received an award from the state governor for my charitable work. It was a far cry from the lonely, forgotten girl I once was. Despite the early hardships, the loss, and the struggles, I'd found success, love, and a family that was mine by choice, not just by blood. Aunt Lily, Mark, Emily, Sophie, they were my world, a testament to the fact that with enough love and determination, you can build a future worth dreaming of. Walking back from a big interview, my mind was buzzing with thoughts of how it went and the questions I could have answered better. That's when I saw them in the parking lot, two figures looking lost and out of place. As I got closer, a wave of surprise hit me. It was my parents, the very same who'd left me to fend for myself all those years ago. "Can I help you?" I asked, even though I recognized them immediately. "Anna, it's us. We saw you on TV." My mom started, her voice overlapping with my dad's. "We're so proud of you, darling," my dad added, trying to find the right words. "We've missed you. We want to be part of your life again." I couldn't hide my astonishment, nor the bitterness that quickly followed. My life? Now? My family is Aunt Lily, Mark, and my girls. You chose to leave that life behind. They looked desperate, almost as if they were clawing at the last straws of hope. "Please, Anna, we're your parents. We made mistakes, but we're family." That's when I pressed them, needing to understand their sudden reappearance. "Why now? What's changed?" The story spilled out. My brother, chasing his musical dreams over the path they had chosen for him, leaving them to face their crumbling world alone. My father's neglect of the business leading to its downfall, my mother's lack of work experience leaving them without a safety net. Their house, once a symbol of their future, now on the market, with nowhere else to turn. Listening to them, I felt a mix of emotions. There was a part of me that wanted to help, to extend the compassion I'd learned to embody through my political career. Yet, another part of me remembered the nights spent locked out, the birthdays forgotten, the milestones uncelebrated. Standing there on the street, I didn't hold back. "You remember when you tossed Aunt Lily out, right? Or how about the time you left me sitting on the porch, locked out of the house?" "Yeah, I haven't forgotten that," I told them, each word heavy with years of unspoken hurt. I could see the realization dawning on their faces, the weight of their actions finally sinking in. But it was too late for regrets. I reached into my purse, pulled out some cash, and handed it to them. "This should cover your trip back. I think it's best if you leave now." Watching them walk away was like closing a book on a long, painful chapter of my life. But there was one call I needed to make, to my brother, the one person who truly understood what it was like growing up in our household. "Hey, it's me," I started, the moment he picked up. "Guess who just paid me a visit?" His laugh came through the phone, light and knowing. "Let me guess, our dear old folks?" "Yeah, but I handled it. Told them we're doing just fine without their sudden guilt trip," I said, feeling a mix of relief and strength. "I'm proud of you, sis. You've always been the strong one," he replied, his voice warm and reassuring. "How's the tour going?" I asked, changing the subject to something lighter. "It's amazing. You wouldn't believe the crowds we're drawing. Guess I'm finally living the dream, huh?" His excitement was palpable, and it made me smile. "Always knew you would." Just promise me you'll swing by here on your next tour. The girls would love to see their uncle rock the stage. Wouldn't miss it for the world, he promised. Take care, sis. Love you. Love you too. Hanging up, I felt a profound sense of peace. My life had come full circle in so many ways. Here I was, a successful woman, surrounded by people who loved me for me. Aunt Lily, Mark, my girls, and even my brother, from afar, formed the fabric of my true family.